After 3 years as a staple of the NASCAR schedule, it looks like for the time being, Chicago is done for with NASCAR. And this could be taken in a number of ways. It could be very positive for some people, negative for others. We're going to go all the way into it and we're going to see what people have said and why this might not be the total end. So, starting with what was put on the official social media pages for the NASCAR Chicago street race accounts. Thank you for all that you have done to make the NASCAR Chicago street race one of the most iconic events in global sports. Following the success of the first 3 years, the Chicago street race will hit pause in 2026 to afford us time necessary to work collaboratively with the city of Chicago to explore a new potential date to develop a plan that further optimizes operational efficiencies, with the goal to return to the streets of Chicago in 2027. Together, we have built and grown and expanded community of fans that consists of longtime NASCAR enthusiasts and first-time racegoers from around the globe. And for that, we are immensely grateful. Thank you for your continued support, and we look forward to seeing you at the races. So, yes, it is not coming back next year, but I do find a few pieces of this very interesting. First off, it is kind of funny to me when they say the first 3 years being successful, but we're going to hit pause. I get it. You know, they got to fluff it up and all that, but I just found it funny. On the other end of it, though, is the end of there where you see they want to optimize and all this other stuff and the goal to return in 2027. Now, this is different from a lot of different NASCAR tracks and races that go away in the sense that usually they don't give a goal date, at least, to try and make it happen. The city of Chicago has shown more interest in NASCAR after what's happened over the last couple of years with this race. So you have to imagine that there is probably going to be that ongoing conversation. And it's not just fluff to say that there is, which I would say don't be surprised if maybe this race finds its way back onto the 2027 NASCAR Cup and probably Xfinity Series schedules. With that being said, though, there are a lot of times where a track or a entity will leave and they'll talk about the future. Maybe not this pointed of a date, but they'll talk about the future and when they want to come back at some point. At some point we want to come back. And those are the ones that usually don't happen. Look, for instance, at Auto Club Speedway. We were probably supposed to have an Auto Club short track by now for a couple years, and it still sits there pretty much abandoned. It's nothing but a husk of its former glory. And I'm not saying that Chicago obviously will be that way, but more just that you have to be cautious with that. In other motorsports like IndyCar, when they say they want to come back in a year or two, it tends not to happen. So I don't want it to be like there's no hope for those that love the streets. But at the same time, when something gets taken off the schedule, the hiatus at the minimum is not usually a year. It's usually a couple of years, which might be what this needs. After all, we do have a lot of stuff coming up when it comes to San Diego pretty much being confirmed. Chicagoland is gaining steam. Both of those dates take up what was positive about this. San Diego with the new market, Chicagoland with the Chicago market. So you have to take that into consideration as well. And there also is a little bit more from the side of the letter, or at least statement, to Brandon Johnson, or from Brandon Johnson, it might be. I think it's to Brandon Johnson. And then the third paragraph, I'll read it here. It's very interesting in what it says. We are extremely proud of what we've achieved together. during its first 2 years alone, the Chicago street race generated more than $236 million in economic impact, including support for hundreds of local jobs across the hospitality, tourism, and construction industries. NASCAR fans from all 50 states and more than 36 countries around the globe booked travel, stayed in hotels, and dined at local restaurants, driving community investment and economic opportunity for Chicagoans. In addition, the race delivered significant media value. In the 2023 and 2024 broadcasts on NBC, it reached millions across the globe, resulting in an estimated $67 million in international media value for Chicago. Now, it's important, I think, to also talk about, yes, they don't have everything that's been brought out from year 3, but year 3 was a step down. And in large part, the TV side of it was all TNT. Minimal promotion, not really very much importance held to it, a terrible broadcast, all of that. And while not all of that would impact revenue or anything like that, it does show that there needs to be a little bit more thought behind the brain trust when it comes to how to present this race. The first 2 years in NBC felt like huge deals. Yeah, they were complete clusters because of the weather, but that's something completely out of their control. They can't control when they get generational rainfall in Chicago, but they can control when it is on the schedule. And that's been the big sticking point, is the 4th of July date. The city of Chicago doesn't want it because it's added hassle when it comes to their police and traffic and everything else. But on top of that, they can get better economical value for people in Chicago and still have this race. On NASCAR side of it, they probably want to keep the race on the 4th of July weekend because it drives up that media value if done right. I mean, again, the first year of this race had about as many viewers as the Indy 500 that same year. It was insane how big this race is. And if you didn't watch it live or didn't see the impact live, you won't fully understand the scope of how big this race was. Now, I do think what this announcement signifies too, on top of San Diego pretty much being confirmed, Chicagoland having a hype train that it's probably not had since the beginning, is the fact that I do think that this signifies the 2026 schedule announcement is a lot closer than people give it credit for. Last year, I believe it was released towards the end of August. I would not be surprised if it's released in the next couple of weeks at this rate. I think the only sticking point left for the schedule is probably Mexico. That's been the big talking point of it. Where does it go? What date does it have before a bye? Is it right before Easter, which sounds like would be the best possible place for it? How does it fit in the ecosystem with all the events they have coming in and possibly IndyCar coming next year? Those are all valid questions. I know Dale Jr.'s talked about it, and the interesting part for me about the Chicago announcement, the schedule, is who takes over that 4th of July date. A lot of people have talked about Atlanta, but TNT seems to want to kick off the start of the in-season challenge and their coverage with their hometown race. And then you also have, maybe it stays in Chicago area, Chicagoland Speedway. I don't know if that would have the impact people would want it to. And we've seen in the middle of the summer that it can be difficult in the Chicago area with weather. Plus, if they move, say, Chicagoland to a different part of the schedule, say August, then you open up the door for NBC to come back if they are to swap Chicagoland out with the Chicago Street Course. You might have different weather, and you might be able to have a bigger TV audience with NBC if they elect to go that direction. So there's a lot of moving pieces at this point, but I do think that there is more hope for those that love the street racing than there might be credit given right now. I know a lot of people keep talking about 2 races in the area. I don't think the Chicago market would really handle that all that well, just because it's not the biggest racing market. But there's been so many people talking about it that I wouldn't be surprised in 27 if we do have Chicago and Chicagoland. I don't know. at this point, a lot of stuff's still in the air, but I want to know what you think. Do you think we return to the streets of Chicago in 2027? Do you want them to return to the streets in 2027? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like in this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.